Billionaire spends $10 million on her special needs son, but gardener solves with dance. Before we dive in, this video is traveling across time zones right now. Share what season you're experiencing where you live. The morning dew still clung to the roses when Marcus Rivera pulled his weathered pickup truck through the ornate gates of the Whitmore estate. At 35, his hands told the story of 15 years working other people's gardens, calloused, dirt-stained, but gentle enough to coax life from the most stubborn soil. Victoria Whitmore stood at her kitchen window, watching him unload his tools. At 27, she carried herself with the exhaustion of someone who had aged decades in just 3 years. Since Richard's sudden heart attack, she'd become a fortress around her 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who hadn't walked since that terrible car accident 2 years ago. "Mrs. Whitmore," Marcus knocked softly on the back door. "I'm here about the garden maintenance position." Victoria opened the door, immediately struck by his kind eyes. "The agency said you specialize in therapeutic gardens." "Yes, ma'am. Plants have a way of healing things we can't see." He glanced past her toward the wheelchair-accessible ramp leading to the garden. "Sometimes they help with things we can see, too." Inside, Lily sat in her custom wheelchair, coloring furiously. Her blonde curls bounced as she looked up. "Are you the plant doctor Mommy hired?" Marcus knelt to her eye level. "I guess you could call me that. What's your name, little miss?" "Lily Rose Whitmore. I'm 6 3/4. She held up her drawing, a garden full of flowers taller than stick-figure people. "I used to help Daddy in our garden before everything changed." Victoria's jaw tightened. "Lily, why don't you show Mr. Rivera the garden while I finish my calls?" The estate's backyard sprawled across 2 acres. But Marcus immediately saw the problem. The beautiful landscape was designed for admiration, not interaction. Raised flower beds, decorative pathways, ornate fountains, everything placed just beyond a wheelchair's reach. "It's pretty, but I can't touch anything," Lily said, matter-of-factly. "Mommy says the doctors will help me walk again someday, but it's taking forever." Marcus studied the space with new eyes. "You know what? I think this garden is lonely. It needs someone to really be part of it, not just look at it." "What do you mean?" "Gardens want to be touched, smelled, explored. They want dirty hands and laughing children." He picked a low-hanging rose and handed it to her. "This one's been waiting for you." For the first time in months, Lily smiled genuinely. "Really? Gardens don't lie, sweetheart." Victoria returned to find them planning modifications. Lower planting beds, accessible tool storage, sensory plants at wheelchair height. "Mr. Rivera, I should mention the budget isn't unlimited. Ma'am, the most important changes won't cost much money. They'll just take time and attention." He stood, brushing soil from his knees. "When can I start?" That afternoon, as Marcus worked on clearing overgrown sections, he couldn't shake the image of Lily's face lighting up at that simple rose. He'd seen enough medical files in his previous therapeutic garden work to recognize the signs. This family had spent a fortune chasing miracles. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Elena. "How's the new job? Rich people treating you okay?" He typed back, "Different kind of work this time. Think I might actually be able to help." As evening approached, Victoria found him still working despite the dimming light. "Mr. Rivera, you don't have to..." "Please, call me Marcus. And I wanted to finish this section so Lily can reach the herb garden tomorrow." She watched him secure the last support post for a raised bed. "She hasn't shown interest in anything garden-related since the accident. How did you?" "Sometimes people just need permission to hope again." Marcus wiped his hands on his work shirt. "Mrs. Whitmore, can I ask you something?" "Of course. What does Lily miss most about the time before?" Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "Everything. Running, dancing, helping Richard plant vegetables. She was so active, so independent." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The doctors say there's still hope. But after $10 million and 2 years of treatments, hope doesn't have a price tag," Marcus said gently. Sometimes it just needs different soil to grow in. The next morning brought unexpected rain, but Marcus arrived anyway. Through the kitchen window, Lily watched him work under a small tarp, carefully transplanting seedlings. "He's still here, even though it's yucky outside," she observed. Victoria poured coffee, studying this man who'd appeared in their lives like answered prayer she hadn't known she was praying. "Yes, he is. Mommy, do you think the plant doctor really believes gardens can help people?" Before Victoria could answer, Marcus knocked on the back door, rain-soaked but grinning. "Lily, come see what we planted yesterday." Despite the weather, tiny green shoots had emerged from the herb bed he'd prepared. "They grew overnight," Lily exclaimed. "That's the thing about hope," Marcus said, his eyes meeting Victoria's over Lily's head. "Sometimes it appears when you least expect it." But as Victoria watched her daughter's excitement, she couldn't help wondering, was she setting Lily up for another heartbreak? They'd trusted doctors, specialists, experimental treatments. What made a gardener different? The answer would come sooner than she ever imagined. By the end of Marcus's first week, the Whitmore garden had begun its transformation. Lower beds curved in wheelchair-friendly paths, and the air filled with the fragrance of herbs Lily could actually reach and touch. But it was Thursday afternoon when everything changed. "Marcus, Marcus," Lily called from her usual spot by the herb garden. "The basil smells different today," he approached, noting her excitement. She'd been growing more animated each day, but something about her posture seemed different. "Different how, sweetheart? Stronger, like it's trying to tell me something." She reached forward, stretching further than usual to grab a leaf. Victoria emerged from the house with afternoon snacks, freezing when she saw Lily's position. Her daughter was leaning so far forward in her wheelchair that her legs were supporting some of her weight, something that shouldn't have been possible. "Lily, honey, be careful." "Mommy, look. I can feel the sun on my legs." Lily's voice carried wonder instead of her usual matter-of-fact tone about her condition. Marcus caught Victoria's eye, both recognizing something extraordinary was happening. For 2 years, Lily had shown no sensation below her waist. The specialists had used words like permanent and irreversible. "That's wonderful, Lily," Marcus said carefully. "The sun does feel nice today." But Victoria's mind raced. Sensation returning wasn't medically impossible, but after so many failed treatments, she'd stopped believing in miracles. "We should call Dr. Peterson." "Not yet," Marcus said quietly, approaching Victoria while Lily continued exploring the herbs. "Sometimes the body heals on its own timeline. Doctors can measure progress, but they can't always explain why it happens." "You don't understand. We've spent years, millions of dollars, and maybe all of that was building to this moment. Maybe Lily just needed to remember what she was fighting to get back to." Over the next few days, the changes became undeniable. Lily began spending entire afternoons in the garden, and her legs showed increasing sensation. She started describing textures, temperatures, even claiming she could feel the different plants' personalities. "The roses are proud," she announced Monday morning, "but the mint is playful." Marcus had seen therapeutic breakthroughs before, but nothing like this. "What do the vegetables feel like?" "Patient, like they're waiting for something important." Victoria scheduled an emergency appointment with Dr. Peterson for Friday. Thursday evening, she found Marcus cleaning tools in the garden shed, his usual quiet confidence replaced by something that looked like worry. "Having second thoughts?" she asked. "About the garden?" "Never." He set down a hand cultivator. "But I'm wondering if I'm giving you and Lily false hope. What if this is temporary? What if it's not?" Victoria interrupted. "Marcus, she's shown more progress in 10 days than she did in 2 years of treatments. That's what scares me. I'm just a gardener, Victoria. I don't have medical degrees or miracle cures. I plant things and watch them grow." Victoria stepped closer. "Maybe that's exactly what we needed." Friday's appointment with Dr. Peterson left everyone stunned. Lily's sensation had returned to nearly normal levels, and preliminary tests showed improved nerve function. When the doctor asked what new treatments they'd started, Victoria and Marcus exchanged glances. "We've been spending time in the garden," Victoria said simply. Dr. Peterson raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Whitmore, while outdoor activity is beneficial for mental health, it doesn't typically cause neurological recovery." "Then how do you explain it?" The doctor reviewed the test results again. "I can't, but I'd like to schedule comprehensive testing for next week, if these improvements continue." That evening, Victoria found Lily and Marcus planting tomato seedlings in the modified raised beds. Lily was leaning forward in her wheelchair, her hands deep in the soil, completely absorbed in the work. "Mommy, Marcus says these will have tomatoes by summer. Real ones we can eat." "That's right," Marcus confirmed, "but only if we take good care of them." As Victoria watched her daughter's animated face, she realized something profound was happening. For 2 years, Lily's life had revolved around medical appointments, treatments, and limitations. Now she was planning for a future harvest. "Marcus," Victoria said after tucking Lily into bed that night, "what you've done for her, for us." "The garden did it," he interrupted. "I just gave it better conditions to grow." They stood on the back porch, looking over the transformed landscape. The formal, untouchable garden had become a living classroom where a little girl was rediscovering her body's capabilities. "Dr. Peterson wants to run more tests," Victoria said, "and he should. Medical care is important." Marcus leaned against the porch railing. "But Lily's healing because she's remembered joy. That's something no machine can measure." As if summoned by their conversation, Lily's voice called from upstairs. "Mommy, I had the most amazing dream." They rushed to her room, finding her sitting up in bed, eyes bright with excitement. "I dreamed I was running through the garden, and all the plants were cheering for me." She looked directly at Marcus. "And you were there, and Mommy was clapping, and I picked the biggest tomato ever." Victoria's breath caught. Lily hadn't mentioned running or walking in her dreams for over a year. "That sounds like a wonderful dream, sweetheart," Marcus said gently. "It didn't feel like a dream, though," Lily said, settling back into her pillows. "It felt like a memory of something that hasn't happened yet." As they left her room, Victoria whispered, "What's happening to my daughter?" Marcus paused at the top of the stairs. Maybe she's just remembering who she was meant to be. But neither of them noticed the way Lily's toes had moved under her blanket when she described her dream of running. The following Tuesday brought Dr. Peterson to the Whitmore estate personally, something that had never happened in 2 years of treatment. He arrived with a colleague, Dr. Sarah Chen, a pediatric neurologist from Johns Hopkins. "Mrs. Whitmore, I've never seen neurological recovery of this magnitude without surgical intervention," Dr. Peterson said, as they walked toward the garden. "Dr. Chen specializes in cases like Lily's." Victoria felt her stomach tighten. "What kind of cases?" "Unexplained recoveries. We call them spontaneous neurological remissions. They happen, but we rarely understand why." They found Lily and Marcus transplanting bean seedlings. Lily was so focused on her work that she didn't notice the doctors approaching. Her wheelchair was positioned perfectly, but she was leaning forward with both hands in the soil, her legs pressed against the footplates for stability. "Lily," Dr. Peterson called softly, "how are you feeling today?" She looked up, soil streaking her cheeks. "Dr. Peterson, look what Marcus and I planted." She gestured enthusiastically toward neat rows of seedlings. "These will climb up strings and make a green wall." Dr. Chen knelt beside the wheelchair. "Lily, can you tell me if you feel anything in your legs right now?" "Of course I do. They're warm from the sun, and my left foot itches a little." Lily matter-of-factly wiped her hands on her garden apron. "Why?" The doctors exchanged glances. 2 weeks ago, Lily had shown no sensation below her waist. "Can you try to wiggle your toes for me?" Dr. Chen asked. Lily looked down at her feet, her face scrunched in concentration. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, her toes moved inside her shoes. Victoria gasped. Marcus stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "That's wonderful, Lily," Dr. Peterson said, his professional composure barely containing his amazement. "We'd like to do some tests, but not today," Marcus interrupted quietly. "She's had a big morning, and the plants need finishing." Dr. Chen looked surprised. "Mr. Rivera, I'm the gardener. The gardener thinks he knows more about medical care than we do." Dr. Chen's tone carried barely concealed irritation. Marcus met her gaze steadily. "I think Lily knows more about her own healing than any of us, and pushing too hard, too fast, might interrupt something beautiful that's happening naturally." Victoria watched the exchange, torn between medical authority and the undeniable evidence of her daughter's improvement under Marcus's gentle guidance. "I'd like to schedule comprehensive testing for Thursday, Doctor," Peterson said diplomatically, "just to understand what's happening." After the doctors left, Victoria found herself alone with Marcus while Lily napped. "Dr. Chen thinks you're interfering with medical care." "Maybe I am." Marcus continued tying bean plants to support string. "But Lily was dying inside those treatment rooms." "Victoria, here, she's learning to live again. What if we're missing something important? What if this is just temporary?" Marcus paused his work. "What if it's not? What if your daughter is showing us that healing happens when we create the right conditions for growth?" That evening, as Victoria tucked Lily into bed, her daughter surprised her with a question. "Mommy, why do the doctors seem worried when I feel better?" Victoria sat on the bed's edge. "They're not worried, honey. They're just surprised. You're getting better faster than they expected. Is that bad?" "No, sweetheart. It's wonderful." Lily fidgeted with her blanket. "Marcus says sometimes the best things happen when we stop trying to force them. Do you think that's why I'm getting better? Because I stopped trying so hard?" The wisdom in her 6-year-old's observation took Victoria's breath away. For 2 years, they'd approached Lily's recovery like a military campaign. Aggressive treatments, demanding schedules, constant pressure to improve. "Maybe," Victoria whispered, "maybe that's exactly why." Wednesday morning brought unexpected news. Lily woke up complaining that her legs felt tingly and weird. "Different from yesterday?" Victoria asked, trying to keep panic from her voice. "Yeah, like when your foot falls asleep, but all over my legs." Marcus arrived to find Victoria pacing the kitchen, phone in hand. "Should I call Dr. Peterson?" "Let's ask Lily what she thinks," Marcus suggested. They found her in her wheelchair by the garden door, looking frustrated. "I want to go outside, but my legs feel all buzzy." "Buzzy how?" Marcus asked, kneeling beside her, like they want to move, but they don't remember how. Marcus glanced at Victoria. "Lily, do you want to try something?" "What?" "What if we went outside, but instead of using your wheelchair, we helped you stand up next to the flower bed? Just for a minute?" Victoria started to protest, but Lily's face lit up. "Could I? Would my legs hold me?" "We won't know unless we try," Marcus said gently. "But your mom and I will be right here." 5 minutes later, they positioned Lily between them at the edge of the raised herb bed. Marcus on one side, Victoria on the other. They helped her stand. For 30 seconds, Lily Rose Whitmore supported her own weight for the first time in 2 years. "I can feel the ground," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I can feel the ground under my feet." Victoria looked across her daughter's head at Marcus, seeing her own amazement reflected in his eyes. But what they couldn't see was Dr. Chen's car pulling into the driveway for an unscheduled visit, or her expression of shock as she witnessed through the garden gate what medical science had declared impossible. The sound of a car door slamming made them all turn, and Victoria's heart sank as she recognized the determined stride of someone about to change everything. Dr. Chen's unexpected arrival shattered the magical moment like glass. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need to speak with you immediately." Lily, still standing between Marcus and Victoria, looked confused. "Did I do something wrong?" "Not at all, sweetheart." Victoria assured her, though her voice trembled. "Let's get you settled back in your chair. But I want to stand more. It feels amazing." Duh. Marcus caught Victoria's eye, both recognizing the delicate balance they were trying to maintain. "Lily, your body is working very hard right now. Sometimes the best thing we can do is rest between victories." Dr. Chen waited until Lily was safely seated before approaching Victoria. "Mrs. Whitmore, we need to discuss what I just witnessed. Lily shouldn't be able to bear weight at all, yet she was standing unsupported. Isn't that good news?" Victoria asked, though she could read concern in the doctor's expression. "It's unprecedented, which is why I'm recommending immediate hospitalization for comprehensive evaluation." "No?" The word came from Marcus, quiet but firm. Dr. Chen turned to him with obvious irritation. "This is a medical decision, Mr. Rivera, not a gardening consultation. It's Lily's life," Marcus replied steadily. "And she's been making more progress in 2 weeks here than in 2 years of hospital treatments. That's exactly the problem. This rate of recovery is medically impossible, given her diagnosis. There could be underlying factors we don't understand. Complications, risks we haven't identified." Victoria felt caught between two worlds. What kind of risks? Rapid neurological changes can indicate tumor growth, spinal instability, or immune system responses that could be dangerous if left unmonitored. From her wheelchair, Lily had been quietly listening. "Are you saying I'm sick again?" The adults froze, realizing their conversation had frightened her. "No, honey," Victoria said quickly. "Dr. Chen just wants to make sure you're getting better safely." "But I feel safe here, with Marcus and the plants." Lily looked directly at Dr. Chen. "In the hospital, I felt sick, even when I wasn't sick. Here, I feel like myself again." Dr. Chen softened slightly. "Lily, I understand you like the garden, but we need to make sure your body is healing correctly. What if it is? What if this is exactly how it's supposed to happen?" The question came from an unexpected source, Victoria herself, surprising everyone, including herself, with its boldness. "Mrs. Whitmore," Dr. Chen began carefully, "I understand hope can make us want to believe." "This isn't about hope," Victoria interrupted. "This is about results. Measurable, undeniable results that your medical tests confirmed." That afternoon, after Dr. Chen left with promises to discuss the case with colleagues, Victoria found herself in the garden with Marcus, while Lily napped. "She wants to hospitalize her," Victoria said. Not really a question. "I know." Marcus was deadheading roses, his movements precise but troubled. "And maybe she should. I'm not a doctor, Victoria. What if I'm wrong? What if there are things I can't see?" Victoria studied his face. "But you don't think you're wrong. I think Lily is healing because she's remembered joy. But I also think Dr. Chen is right to be cautious." He set down his pruning shears. "The question is, what does Lily need most right now? Medical monitoring or continued progress? Can't she have both? Not if one undermines the other." That evening brought an unexpected phone call from Dr. Peterson. "Mrs. Whitmore, I've been consulting with colleagues about Lily's case. Dr. Chen is concerned, but I'd like to propose a compromise." Victoria felt her pulse quicken. "What kind of compromise?" "Outpatient monitoring, daily visits here at the house, regular testing, but Lily stays in her familiar environment. We document everything, her activities, responses, progress markers, like a research study. Exactly. If this recovery is genuine, and the evidence suggests it is, we need to understand how it's happening. Other children with similar injuries could benefit." Victoria looked through the window at Marcus, who was stringing lights in the garden for what he'd called evening magic time with Lily. What would that mean for Marcus? For the garden work? Nothing changes except we observe and document. Mr. Rivera continues his work. Lily continues her activities, but we monitor medically. After hanging up, Victoria found Marcus and Lily in the garden, where he was teaching her to identify plants by touch in the dim light. "This one's fuzzy," Lily said, running her fingers over lamb's ear leaves. Good. And this one? Smooth and waxy. That's the succulent that stores water in its leaves. Perfect. Marcus noticed Victoria approaching. How was your call? Victoria explained Dr. Peterson's proposal, while Lily continued her tactile exploration. So the doctors would come here every day? Lily asked. Just to check on you. Make sure you're staying healthy while you get stronger. Lily considered this seriously. Would they let me keep working in the garden? I think that's the whole point, Marcus said gently. Then okay, but I have one condition. Victoria and Marcus exchanged amused glances. What's that, sweetheart? The doctors have to learn about plants, too. If they're going to understand how I'm getting better, they need to understand the garden. That night, as Victoria checked on Lily before bed, she found her daughter sitting up, looking out her window at the garden lights Marcus had installed. Mommy, do you think Daddy would be proud of me for getting stronger? Victoria's throat tightened. Oh, honey, Daddy would be so proud of how brave you've been. I think he sent Marcus to help us. Help, don't you? Looking down at the gentle lights, illuminating the transformed garden, Victoria found herself believing that might be exactly what had happened. But what none of them knew was that tomorrow would bring a test that would challenge everything they'd built together. Thursday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth. Perfect weather for what Lily had declared the Great Tomato Transplanting Day. Dr. Peterson arrived early with his monitoring equipment, followed by Dr. Chen and a third specialist, Dr. Reeves, whose presence no one had expected. Who's the new doctor? Lily asked, as they watched the medical team set up in the garden. Marcus crouched beside her wheelchair. Looks like you're becoming famous. Sometimes when something special happens, more people want to understand it. Dr. Peterson approached them with his clipboard. Lily, Dr. Reeves specializes in spinal cord research. He's very interested in your progress. Dr. Reeves, a stern-looking man in his 60s, studied Lily with clinical detachment. Miss Whitmore, I understand you believe gardening is helping your recovery. It's not just belief, Lily said matter-of-factly. I can feel my legs getting stronger every day. Can you demonstrate? Lily looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. With careful support from Victoria and Marcus, she stood again, this time for nearly a full minute. Dr. Reeves watched intently, making notes. Remarkable, but I'd like to try something different. He gestured to his colleagues. We'd like to conduct these strength tests in a controlled environment, perhaps indoors, without the distractions of the garden setting. Marcus felt warning bells go off. Why would you want to change what's working? Because we need to isolate variables. If Miss Whitmore can demonstrate the same strength and sensation away from this specific environment, it confirms the recovery is genuine, rather than psychologically induced. Victoria saw Lily's face fall. Psychologically induced? You think she's pretending? Not pretending. But sometimes the brain can temporarily override physical limitations when in emotionally supportive environments. We need to ensure the recovery is neurologically real. Lily's voice was small. You want to test me away from my garden, just for a few hours, Doctor? Reeves said, in our mobile unit outside. Marcus stepped forward. What if she loses strength in an unfamiliar environment? What if this disrupts her progress? Then we'll know the recovery wasn't genuine to begin with. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Victoria looked at her daughter's worried face, then at Marcus, whose jaw was tight with controlled anger. What do you think, Lily? Victoria asked quietly. Lily was quiet for a long moment, her hands absently stroking the mint plant beside her chair. If I do the tests, and I can still feel my legs, then everyone will believe I'm really getting better. That's the idea, Doctor, Peterson said gently. But what if being away from the garden makes me feel weak again? What if I can't show them how strong I'm getting? Marcus knelt beside her. Lily, your strength doesn't come from the dirt or the plants. They just helped you remember it was always there. Really? Really? But you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Dr. Reeves checked his watch. Miss Whitmore, We have a limited window for optimal testing conditions. She's 6 years old, Marcus interrupted. She's not your laboratory subject. The tension between the men was palpable. Victoria found herself at the center of an impossible choice. Trust the medical establishment that had failed them for 2 years, or trust a gardener who had accomplished the impossible in 2 weeks. I'll do the tests, Lily said suddenly, but only if Marcus comes with me. Dr. Reeves frowned. The gardener's presence could influence the results. Then the results won't be about me, Lily said with startling wisdom. They'll be about what you expect to see. Dr. Peterson intervened diplomatically. Perhaps Mr. Rivera could observe without interacting directly during the tests. 2 hours later, in the sterile environment of the mobile medical unit, Lily's tests began, away from her garden, surrounded by monitoring equipment and clinical observers. She struggled to demonstrate the strength and sensation she'd shown so easily outdoors. I can still feel my legs, she insisted, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. They just feel sleepy. Dr. Reeves made notes. Reduced sensation, minimal motor response, consistent with psychological rather than neurological recovery. Marcus watched through the observation window, his hands clenched into fists. Victoria sat beside Lily, holding her hand. It's okay, sweetheart. You don't have to prove anything. But Lily was trying, her face strained with concentration as she attempted to move her toes, to demonstrate the strength that had seemed so natural just hours before. I don't understand, she whispered. This morning I could stand up. Why can't I now? Dr. Reeves began packing his equipment. This confirms my suspicions. The apparent recovery was environmentally induced, a psychological response to supportive conditions rather than genuine neurological healing. That doesn't make it less real, Victoria said fiercely. If the garden environment helps her heal, then that's where she needs to be. Mrs. Whitmore, false hope can be more damaging than acceptance of limitations. As they prepared to move Lily back outside, something unexpected happened. A butterfly landed on the mobile unit's window, a monarch that had apparently followed them from the garden. Lily noticed it immediately. Look, she came to find me. As she reached toward the window, stretching to touch where the butterfly rested on the other side of the glass, her legs pressed against the wheelchair's footplates for support. The monitoring equipment, still attached, registered the muscle activity. Dr. Peterson stared at the readouts. That's impossible. She's generating measurable motor responses. The butterfly fluttered its wings, and Lily laughed, the first genuine sound of joy she'd made since entering the mobile unit. And with that laugh, the sensation in her legs returned like a tide. I can feel them again, she whispered, wonder in her voice. The butterfly brought my strength back. Dr. Reeves studied the monitoring equipment, his certainty shaken. But how? Marcus's quiet voice came from behind them. Maybe the question isn't where healing happens, but what makes it possible. As they moved Lily back to the garden, none of them noticed that she could now wiggle not just her toes, but her entire feet. The real breakthrough was still coming. The afternoon following the mobile unit tests brought an unexpected visitor to the Whitmore estate. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a renowned pediatric neurologist from Boston Children's Hospital, arrived unannounced after hearing about Lily's case from colleagues. I've been studying spontaneous neurological recovery for 20 years, she told Victoria as they walked toward the garden. What I've heard about your daughter defies everything we understand about spinal cord injuries. They found Lily and Marcus planting marigolds along the accessible pathway. But something was different. Lily was leaning further out of her wheelchair than ever before, her legs clearly supporting some of her weight against the footplates. Dr. Vasquez observed silently as Lily worked, noting the natural way she shifted her weight and used her legs for stability. How long has she been able to bear weight like that? It's been gradual, Victoria replied. Each day she seems a little stronger, and yesterday's tests showed regression in the clinical setting. Marcus looked up from where he was guiding Lily's hands around a seedling. Lily isn't broken equipment to be tested. She's a little girl, learning to trust her body again. Dr. Vasquez approached them slowly. Lily, I'm Dr. Vasquez. I'm very interested in how you're feeling. Lily looked up, soil streaking her cheeks. Are you another doctor who thinks I'm pretending? No, sweetheart. I'm a doctor who thinks you might be showing us something important about how healing really works. This answer seemed to satisfy Lily. Marcus says plants know how to heal themselves if we give them the right conditions. Maybe people are like plants. That's a very wise observation. Can you show me how you've been working in the garden? For the next hour, Dr. Vasquez watched Lily navigate the accessible garden paths, noting how naturally she used her legs for balance and support. Unlike the previous doctors, she didn't ask for artificial demonstrations or clinical tests. Lily, she said finally, I'd like to try something different. Instead of testing your strength, I'd like you to show me your favorite plant. Lily's face lit up. That's easy. Marcus and I planted a sunflower that's going to be taller than both of us. She wheeled toward the far corner of the garden, where a small sunflower plant grew in enriched soil. But when she reached it, something extraordinary happened. It's so small still, Lily said, looking disappointed. I wish I could see it better. Without thinking, she placed her hands on her wheelchair's armrests and pushed herself upward, not just leaning forward as she had been doing, but actually lifting herself into a standing position. Victoria gasped. Marcus dropped his trowel. Dr. Vasquez stepped closer, her medical training warring with wonder. For nearly 2 minutes, Lily Rose Whitmore stood independently, supporting her full weight while examining her sunflower plant. It has 4 true leaves now, she said with satisfaction, completely unaware of the miracle she was demonstrating. Marcus says that means it's ready to really start growing. When she settled back into her wheelchair, she noticed the adults staring. What's wrong? Did I do something bad? No, sweetheart, Victoria whispered, tears streaming down her face. You did something amazing. Dr. Vasquez knelt beside Lily's wheelchair, her clinical composure completely abandoned. Lily, do you realize you just stood up by yourself for 2 whole minutes? Lily looked confused. I stand up lots of times now. Marcus taught me that my legs remember how, even when my brain forgets. But honey, Victoria said gently, 2 weeks ago, you couldn't feel your legs at all. That was before I met the plants. Lily said matter-of-factly. They taught me how to grow again. Dr. Vasquez looked at Marcus with new respect. Mr. Rivera, what exactly have you been doing with her? Marcus wiped his hands on his garden apron, choosing his words carefully. I've been treating her like a person who needed to remember joy, not a patient who needed to be fixed. But medically speaking, Marcus interrupted gently, we've been giving her body reasons to heal, purpose, connection, hope. The same things any living thing needs to thrive. Dr. Vasquez stood, studying the transformed garden with professional eyes. I need to document this, not for research purposes, but because other families need to know this is possible. Will you try to take her away for more tests? Victoria asked, protective instincts flaring. Absolutely not. Whatever is happening here shouldn't be disrupted. Dr. Vasquez pulled out her phone. But I would like to bring a colleague tomorrow, someone who specializes in neuroplasticity, not to test Lily, but to understand the environment that's facilitating her recovery. That evening, as Victoria tucked Lily into bed, her daughter surprised her with a question that took her breath away. Mommy, do you think I'll be able to walk to school in September? Victoria sat on the bed's edge, her heart full of cautious hope. What do you think, sweetheart? I think if I keep helping Marcus in the garden, and if the plants keep teaching me how to grow stronger, maybe I will. Lily snuggled into her pillows. The sunflower is going to be 6 feet tall by summer. Marcus promised we could measure ourselves against it. That sounds like a wonderful goal. And, Mommy, I think Daddy would like Marcus. They both believe in growing things. After Lily fell asleep, Victoria found Marcus on the back porch, cleaning his tools in the dim light. She stood for 2 minutes today, Victoria said, still processing the miracle. She's been getting stronger every day. Today she just finally felt safe enough to try. Victoria studied his profile in the porch light. Dr. Vasquez thinks you've discovered something revolutionary. I think Lily discovered it. I just provided the right soil. They stood in comfortable silence, watching fireflies begin to dance among the garden plants. The formal landscape that had once symbolized everything beautiful but untouchable had become a living testament to the power of hope and human connection. Marcus, Victoria said finally, what happens when she's fully recovered, when she doesn't need the garden therapy anymore? Marcus turned to look at her, something unreadable in his expression. Maybe the question is, what happens when we realize the garden was never just about Lily's recovery? Before Victoria could ask what he meant, Lily's voice called from her bedroom window. Marcus, come quick. I can wiggle all my toes now. All of them. As they rushed inside to witness this latest miracle, neither Victoria nor Marcus noticed the way their hands had briefly touched on the porch railing, or how that simple contact had sent warmth through both of their hearts. The garden had been healing more than just Lily's legs. It had been preparing all three of them for a transformation none of them saw coming. But tomorrow would bring news that would test everything they'd built together and force them to discover just how strong their newfound family had become. Dr. Vasquez arrived Friday morning with Dr. James Morton, a neuroplasticity specialist from Harvard Medical School. But their visit was overshadowed by unexpected news that would change everything. Mrs. Whitmore, Dr. Peterson called at dawn, his voice tight with concern. I need to speak with you before the other doctors arrive. It's about Mr. Rivera. Victoria's heart sank as she met Dr. Peterson in the driveway. What about Marcus? We ran a standard background check for our documentation. Mrs. Whitmore, Marcus Rivera lost his medical license 3 years ago. The words hit Victoria like physical blows. Medical license. Marcus is a gardener. He was a pediatric physical therapist before that. He was treating a young patient with spinal injuries when Dr. Peterson paused, clearly uncomfortable. The child died during an experimental therapy session Rivera was conducting. He was found negligent. Victoria felt the world spin around her. That's impossible. Marcus would never. The family sued. He lost his license, his practice, everything. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm concerned about the methods he's been using with Lily. As if summoned by their conversation, Marcus's pickup truck appeared at the estate gates. Victoria watched him drive toward the house, seeing him with new eyes. The gentle man who had brought such joy to her daughter's life suddenly seemed like a stranger. What do you want me to do? She asked Dr. Peterson. That's your decision. But given Lily's remarkable progress, we need to understand if his background is relevant to what's happening. Marcus approached them with his usual warm smile, but it faltered when he saw their expressions. Good morning. Is everything all right? Marcus, Victoria began carefully. Dr. Peterson has some questions about your background. Understanding flickered in Marcus's eyes, followed by something that looked like resignation. You found out about Boston, about the boy who died during your therapy? Doctor, Peterson asked bluntly. Marcus set down his tool bag, his shoulders sagging. Tommy Chen. He was 8 years old, paralyzed in a diving accident. I thought I could help him by using experimental techniques, by believing in possibilities that medical textbooks said were impossible. Marcus met Victoria's gaze, just like what's happening with Lily. Victoria felt torn between the man she'd come to trust and the disturbing information she'd just learned. Marcus, you should have told me. Would you have let me near your daughter if you'd known I'd lost a patient? The honest answer was no, and they all knew it. Dr. Morton and Dr. Vasquez arrived to find the group in tense conversation. After quick introductions, Dr. Morton got straight to the point. Mr. Rivera, I understand you have medical training beyond gardening. Had, Marcus corrected. I'm a gardener now. But you're applying therapeutic principles to Lily's care. Marcus looked toward the house, where Lily could be seen at her bedroom window, watching them with obvious concern. I'm helping a little girl remember joy. The same thing I was trying to do in Boston. With fatal results, Dr. Peterson added. One tragic outcome doesn't negate every other success. Dr. Vasquez interjected. Mr. Rivera, tell us about Tommy Chen. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Tommy had been paralyzed for 6 months. Traditional therapy wasn't working, so I developed techniques, combining sensory stimulation with emotional engagement. For 3 weeks, he made remarkable progress. Then what happened? I pushed too hard, too fast. During a session, Tommy suffered a massive stroke. We later learned he had an undiagnosed arterial malformation that the increased activity likely triggered. Victoria felt sick. Could that happen to Lily? Any child with spinal injuries carries risks, Dr. Morton said carefully. That's why we follow established protocols that hadn't helped Tommy, Marcus said quietly, just like they hadn't helped Lily for 2 years. The argument that followed was interrupted by an unexpected voice. Why are you all fighting about me? They turned to find Lily in her wheelchair at the back door, her face worried and confused. We're not fighting, sweetheart, Victoria said quickly. Yes, you are. And you're talking about Marcus like he did something bad. Lily wheeled closer to Marcus. Did you do something bad? Marcus knelt beside her wheelchair. I tried to help another little boy get stronger, like I'm helping you, but he got very sick, and he died. Lily absorbed this information with the stark honesty of childhood. Was it your fault? Some people think it was. What do you think? I think I should have been more careful. I think I loved him so much I wanted to see him healed faster than his body was ready for. Lily reached out and took his hand. Do you love me like that too? Yes, I do. Then you'll be more careful with me. I promise. That evening, after the doctors left, Victoria confronted Marcus in the garden. How do I know you won't push Lily too hard? How do I know I can trust you with my daughter's life? Marcus set down his watering can. You don't. Trust isn't about guarantees, Victoria. It's about believing someone will do their best with the love they carry. The next week brought an unexpected challenge that would test everyone's resolve. Lily woke up Tuesday morning with concerning symptoms. Dizziness, nausea, and temporary weakness in her legs. It's probably just a growth spurt, Marcus suggested, as Victoria paced the kitchen, but his voice carried uncertainty that hadn't been there before. Dr. Peterson arrived within an hour of Victoria's call, bringing portable monitoring equipment. Given Mr. Rivera's history, we need to be extremely cautious about any regression. Lily, pale but still insistent on sitting by the garden window, overheard. Are you worried I'm going to die like the other boy? The directness of her question stunned the adults into silence. No, sweetheart, Victoria said quickly. You just don't feel well today. But that's how it started with Tommy, isn't it, Marcus? Marcus met her gaze honestly. Tommy's symptoms were different, Lily, but you're right to ask questions. Dr. Peterson connected monitoring leads while Lily submitted to the procedures with unusual docility. I'm seeing some irregular neural activity, he announced after reviewing the initial readings. Victoria felt her world tilt. What does that mean? It could mean several things. Overexertion, underlying complications, or natural fluctuations in the healing process. Or it could mean Mr. Rivera has been pushing too aggressively. Doctor. Chen's voice came from the doorway. She'd arrived unannounced, clearly responding to Dr. Peterson's earlier call. Marcus stepped forward. Dr. Chen, Lily has been progressing at her own pace. We haven't increased any activities. Haven't you? Standing for longer periods, bearing more weight, attempting movements beyond what's medically advisable for her injury level? I've been getting stronger, Lily said weakly from her wheelchair. That's good, isn't it? Not if it's happening too fast for your nervous system to adapt safely, Dr. Chen replied. The room fell silent except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Victoria looked between Marcus and the doctors, torn between protective instincts and growing fear. "What do you recommend?" she asked Dr. Peterson. "Complete activity restriction for 48 hours. No garden work, no standing exercises, minimal movement beyond necessary functions." "But the plants need me," Lily protested. "The tomatoes are getting ready to flower. The plants will survive 2 days without you," Dr. Chen said firmly. "The question is whether you'll survive continued overexertion." Marcus wanted to argue, but the memory of Tommy Chen's final day haunted his protests. "Lily, maybe your body is telling you to rest. My body is telling me something's wrong, but not with the garden work," Lily said with startling clarity. "Something else is making me sick." Dr. Peterson frowned. "What do you mean?" "Yesterday, when the sprinkler man came to fix the watering system, he sprayed something on the roses. It smelled terrible, and ever since then, I've felt yucky." Victoria's heart stopped. "What sprinkler man? I didn't authorize any service call." Marcus was already moving toward the door. "Show me exactly where he sprayed, Lily." Despite Dr. Chen's protests, they moved to the rose garden where Lily pointed to a section near her favorite sitting area. Marcus knelt, examining the soil and plant leaves. "This isn't pesticide," he said grimly. "It's herbicide, strong enough to kill anything it touches." "But why would someone—" Victoria began. Then understanding dawned. Someone tried to poison the garden, or poison Lily through prolonged exposure, Marcus said, his voice tight with anger. "She's been working in this exact spot for 3 days. Doctor." Peterson immediately called for emergency toxicology testing, while Dr. Chen grudgingly admitted, "This changes our assessment significantly." The next few hours passed in a blur of medical tests, police interviews, and security reviews. By evening, the results confirmed Marcus's suspicions. Lily had been suffering from low-level chemical poisoning from the contaminated soil. "Who would do this?" Victoria asked Detective Rodriguez, who was reviewing the estate's security footage. "Someone who knew about Lily's routine in the garden," the detective replied. "The timing suggests they waited until she'd be most exposed." As evening fell, Lily was finally stable, but exhausted. Victoria tucked her into bed, her heart heavy with the realization that someone had deliberately tried to harm her daughter. "Mommy," Lily whispered, "is someone trying to stop me from getting better?" Victoria struggled for words that wouldn't frighten her further. Some people don't understand that good things can happen in unexpected ways. "Are you going to make Marcus leave now?" "Why would you think that?" "Because every time something scary happens, the doctors say it's his fault." Victoria sat on the bed's edge, studying her daughter's wise young face. "What do you think?" "I think Marcus saved my life today. If he hadn't recognized the poison, I could have gotten much sicker." That night, Victoria found Marcus on the back porch, methodically cleaning the contaminated soil from his tool. "The detective thinks it might be someone from the medical community," she said quietly. "Someone who disagrees with your methods." Marcus didn't look up. "Or someone who knows about Boston and wants to make sure I can't hurt another child." "You think, Dr. Chen?" "I think there are people who believe good intentions don't matter if the outcome is dangerous." Marcus set down a cleaned trowel. Maybe they're right. But what they didn't know was that tomorrow would bring the real culprit to their door. Wednesday morning brought an unexpected visitor who would change everything. Dr. Harrison Webb, former head of pediatric neurology at Boston Children's Hospital, arrived at the Whitmore estate without an appointment. "Mrs. Whitmore, I believe we need to discuss Mr. Rivera's presence in your daughter's life," Dr. Webb said as Victoria reluctantly invited him into the living room. Marcus, who had been working in the far section of the garden, noticed the expensive sedan in the driveway and felt his blood run cold. He recognized Dr. Webb immediately, the man who had led the medical review board that had stripped away his license 3 years ago. "I'm not sure I understand," Victoria said carefully, though Dr. Webb's authoritative presence made her instinctively defensive. I was Tommy Chen's supervising physician. I'm the one who reported Mr. Rivera's negligent practices to the medical board. Victoria's composure faltered. You're here about that case. I'm here because Marcus Rivera nearly killed my patient with his reckless experimental methods, and now he's doing the same thing to your daughter. From the garden, Marcus heard raised voices through the open windows. He approached the house quietly, his heart pounding with memories of similar confrontations in Boston. Dr. Webb, Victoria said firmly, my daughter has made remarkable progress under Marcus's care. Temporary improvement followed by dangerous complications. It's exactly what happened with Tommy. Dr. Webb opened his briefcase, pulling out medical files. The poisoning incident. That was no coincidence. Someone is trying to show you how dangerous it is to trust an unlicensed practitioner. Are you saying you? I'm saying someone who cares about children's welfare is sending you a message. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his face pale but determined. Hello, Harrison. Dr. Webb's expression hardened. Marcus, still playing doctor, I see. Still helping children remember joy, if that's what you mean. The way you helped Tommy remember, by pushing him beyond his limits until his body gave out. Victoria looked between the two men, sensing years of unresolved conflict. What exactly happened in Boston? Dr. Webb answered before Marcus could speak. Mr. Rivera convinced Tommy's parents to let him try unconventional therapy techniques. Against medical advice, he subjected an 8-year-old boy to intensive sensory stimulation and physical challenges that Tommy's damaged nervous system couldn't handle. I was trying to activate neural pathways that traditional therapy had written off as dead, Marcus said quietly, and you killed him in the process. The words hit the room like a physical blow. Victoria sank into a chair, looking at Marcus with new uncertainty. Tell her the rest, Harrison, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. Tell her why Tommy's parents supported my methods right up until the end. Doctor, Webb's jaw tightened. Desperate parents will believe anything if you give them false hope. False hope? Tommy went from complete paralysis to regaining sensation in his upper body. He was starting to move his fingers, his arms. For the first time in 6 months, he was laughing again, none of which justified the experimental techniques that caused his stroke. Victoria felt overwhelmed by competing truths. Marcus, is that accurate? Were you using experimental methods? Marcus met her gaze directly. Yes, because everything else had failed, just like everything had failed for Lily, until we started working in the garden. Dr. Webb pulled out additional documents. Mrs. Whitmore, I have an offer that will ensure your daughter's safety while maintaining her medical progress. What kind of offer? A place in our new pediatric rehabilitation program at Boston Children. The finest medical care available, with supervised activity therapy that won't put Lily at risk. Victoria felt the world shifting beneath her. You want to take her to Boston? I want to save her life before Marcus Rivera destroys it, the way he destroyed Tommy Chen. From her wheelchair by the window, Lily had been listening to every word. Now she spoke in a clear, strong voice that surprised all 3 adults. I'm not Tommy Chen. They turned to find her wheeling herself into the room, her young face set with determination. Lily, sweetheart, go back to your room while the adults... Victoria began. No, Mommy, they're talking about me, so I should be here. She positioned her wheelchair directly in front of Dr. Webb. You think Marcus is going to hurt me like he hurt the other boy? Dr. Webb softened his tone. Lily, I think Mr. Rivera means well, but do you know how I feel when I work in the garden? How do you feel? Happy? Strong? Like my body remembers how to be alive. She looked at Marcus with absolute trust. Marcus doesn't push me to do things. He just helps me remember I can try. But Lily, Dr. Webb said gently, what if trying too hard makes you sicker? What if not trying makes me forget how to hope? The wisdom in her response silenced Dr. Webb momentarily. Victoria found her voice. Dr. Webb, I appreciate your concern, but my daughter is thriving here, for now. But what happens when the next crisis comes? When Marcus's methods cause irreversible damage? What happens if we lock her away in a hospital and she loses everything she's gained? Doctor. Webb stood, clearly frustrated. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm offering your daughter the best medical care in the world. The standoff was interrupted by a phone call from Dr. Peterson. Victoria answered hesitantly, her conversation growing increasingly animated. That was Dr. Peterson, she announced after hanging up. They found out who contaminated the garden. Dr. Webb's face went carefully neutral. Oh? A private investigator hired by someone who wanted to document the dangerous conditions Lily was being exposed to. Victoria's eyes narrowed as she studied Dr. Webb's expression, someone who wanted evidence that Marcus's methods were harmful. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Dr. Webb, Lily said into the tension, did you try to poison my garden? I tried to protect you from a man who killed my patient. But the real shock was yet to come. 3 days after Dr. Webb's visit, the crisis none of them had anticipated arrived in the form of an emergency court order. Victoria was served the papers Friday morning, while Lily was in the garden with Marcus, practicing her newfound ability to take assisted steps. Temporary custody petition. Victoria read aloud, her voice shaking. Dr. Harrison Webb is requesting emergency intervention to protect Lily from dangerous and unlicensed medical practices. Detective Rodriguez, who had delivered the papers, looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Whitmore, Dr. Webb has presented video evidence of what he claims are unsafe therapeutic activities. Video evidence? Hidden cameras. Apparently he's been documenting everything for weeks. Victoria felt the world crumble around her. Through the window, she could see Lily taking careful steps between raised garden beds, while Marcus supported her elbow, both of them laughing at something only they could hear. What does this mean? She asked. Emergency hearing Monday morning. Until then, Mr. Rivera is prohibited from any contact with Lily. If he violates this order, he'll be arrested. The sound of Lily's delighted laughter drifted through the open windows as she managed 4 consecutive steps on her own. Detective Rodriguez, Victoria said carefully, are you going to enforce this order right now? I have to, ma'am. I'm sorry. The next hour was the most difficult of Victoria's life, explaining to Lily why Marcus had to leave immediately, watching her daughter's face crumble with confusion and betrayal, seeing Marcus gather his tools with trembling hands, while Lily sobbed in her wheelchair. But I was getting so strong, Lily cried. I walked 10 steps yesterday. Why can't Marcus help me anymore? It's temporary, sweetheart, Victoria said, though her own voice was breaking. Just until we can talk to a judge. Marcus knelt beside Lily's wheelchair one last time. Remember what we learned about seeds, Lily. Sometimes they have to grow in the dark for a while before they can reach the light. Will you come back? If your mama and the judge say I can. Promise? Marcus met Victoria's eyes over Lily's head, both of them knowing he couldn't make that promise. I promise I'll never stop believing in how strong you are. After Marcus left, Lily refused to go near the garden. She spent the weekend in her room, barely eating, her legs seeming to lose strength by the hour. She's regressing, Dr. Peterson observed during his Saturday check-in. The emotional trauma is affecting her physical progress. What happens if she loses everything she's gained? Victoria asked. Then Dr. Webb's petition becomes much stronger. He'll argue that the recovery was unstable to begin with. Sunday evening, Victoria found Lily staring out her bedroom window at the garden, tears streaming down her face. The plants looked sad without Marcus. Lily whispered, "They miss him, too. Honey, maybe we should go outside, just you and me." "I can't. My legs feel asleep again." Victoria's heart broke as she realized Lily was sliding back into the helpless state she'd been in before Marcus arrived. The joy, the confidence, the miraculous strength. It was all fading without the man who had believed in it first. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, matching Victoria's mood as she dressed for court. Lily remained in bed, claiming she couldn't feel her legs enough to get into her wheelchair. "Mrs. Whitmore," Dr. Peterson called, as Victoria prepared to leave. "I need to tell you something about the court case." "What?" "I've been reviewing all of Lily's medical records from the past month. Marcus's methods, however unconventional, produced measurable neurological improvement. Will you testify to that?" "I already have. I submitted a report to the court this morning, supporting the continuation of Marcus's work with appropriate medical supervision." For the first time in days, Victoria felt a spark of hope. The courthouse was intimidating, but Victoria was surprised to find she wasn't alone. Dr. Vasquez had flown in from Boston specifically to testify on Marcus's behalf, along with Dr. Morton and, unexpectedly, 3 other families whose children had been helped by Marcus's previous work. Maria Santos, a woman, introduced herself. "Marcus worked with my son after his car accident. Diego is walking today because of what Marcus taught him." The hearing began with Dr. Webb presenting his evidence, video footage of Lily working in the garden, medical testimony about the risks of unlicensed practice, and impassioned arguments about child safety. "Your Honor," Dr. Webb concluded, "Marcus Rivera has a history of endangering children with experimental techniques. This little girl's temporary improvement doesn't justify the risk of permanent harm." Victoria's lawyer presented the counter-evidence, medical documentation of Lily's improvement, testimony from supporting physicians, and character witnesses who had seen Marcus's work firsthand. But the most powerful moment came when Judge Martinez asked to hear from Victoria herself. "Your Honor, my daughter was dying inside before Marcus came into our life. Not physically. We had the best medical care money could buy for that. She was dying emotionally, spiritually. Marcus didn't just help her legs get stronger. He helped her soul remember how to hope." The judge was quiet for a long moment, reviewing the submitted documents. Finally, he spoke. "This court finds that while Dr. Webb's concerns have merit, the evidence suggests that Mr. Rivera's work with Lily, under appropriate medical supervision, has been beneficial rather than harmful." Victoria felt her knees nearly give out with relief. "However," the judge continued, "this court also recognizes the need for safeguard. Mr. Rivera may continue working with Lily under weekly medical evaluations and documented supervision by licensed physicians. Furthermore, Dr. Webb, this court notes that your methods in gathering evidence raise serious questions about your motive. You are hereby ordered to cease all contact with the Whitmore family." As Victoria rushed from the courthouse, Marcus's truck was already in the driveway when she arrived. Victoria burst through the front door to find the house strangely quiet. Following the sound of soft voices, she discovered Marcus and Lily in the living room, but what she saw took her breath away. Lily was standing in the middle of the room, no wheelchair, no support, taking slow but steady steps toward Marcus, who knelt with his arms outstretched about 6 feet away. "That's it, sweetheart," Marcus was saying softly. "Remember, your legs are just as brave as your heart." "I can do it," Lily whispered, her face scrunched with concentration. "I can feel them getting stronger with every step." Victoria watched in stunned silence as her daughter took one step, then another, until she fell into Marcus's waiting arms. "I walked," Lily exclaimed, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I walked all by myself." "You did more than that," Marcus said, his own voice thick with emotion. "You chose to trust your body, even when it felt scary." "How long has she been walking?" Victoria asked, stepping into the room. "She was standing by the window when I got here," Marcus replied. "She said her legs woke up the moment she saw my truck in the driveway." Lily turned toward her mother and without hesitation began walking across the room. 7 steps, 8, 9, until she reached Victoria and threw her arms around her. "Mommy, did you see? I walked to you." Victoria held her daughter, overwhelmed by the miracle she was witnessing. "I saw, baby. I saw everything." Marcus says we can go back to the garden now. The plants have been waiting for us. That afternoon, Victoria watched from the kitchen window as Lily walked through the garden paths, sometimes stumbling, sometimes needing Marcus's steadying hand, but walking nonetheless. The formal landscape that had once seemed like a beautiful prison had become the setting for the most extraordinary recovery she'd ever witnessed. Dr. Peterson arrived for his mandated weekly evaluation to find Lily not just walking, but actually running short distances between garden beds. "This is medically unprecedented," he admitted, shaking his head in wonder. Complete recovery from her level of spinal injury should be impossible. Maybe the word impossible doesn't mean what we think it means, Marcus suggested. As the days passed, Lily's strength continued to grow. She could walk unassisted for increasingly longer distances, climb the gentle slopes of the garden paths, and even manage a few steps on uneven ground. But more than physical recovery, Victoria witnessed her daughter's complete emotional transformation. The listless, withdrawn child who had spent 2 years defined by limitations had become a vibrant, confident little girl who attacked each day with enthusiasm. "Marcus," Victoria said one evening as they watched Lily chase fireflies through the garden, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For doubting you. For listening to Dr. Webb's fears instead of trusting what I could see with my own eyes." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You were protecting your daughter. That's what good mothers do." "Is that what you were doing? Protecting children?" "I was trying to give them back their futures. Sometimes that meant taking risks that other people weren't comfortable with." Victoria studied his profile in the fading light. "Do you think about Tommy Chen every day? But I've realized something. Tommy's death taught me to be more careful, more attentive to warning signs. In a way, he helped me save Lily." "Do you think he would approve?" Marcus smiled softly. "I think Tommy would be happy to know that another child got to run through gardens because of lessons learned from his courage." The next morning brought unexpected visitors, Dr. Vasquez and Dr. Morton, who had returned from Boston specifically to document Lily's continued progress. "We'd like to write about this case," Dr. Vasquez explained. "Not just Lily's recovery, but the therapeutic environment that made it possible. Other children could benefit from understanding how this happened," Dr. Morton added. Lily, who was practicing walking backwards along the garden path, looked up with interest. "You want to tell other kids about the garden?" "We want to tell their doctors and parents that sometimes healing happens in ways we don't expect." "That sounds good," Lily said matter-of-factly. "But make sure you tell them the most important part." "What's that?" "Plants can teach you how to grow, but only if you're brave enough to get your hands dirty." That evening, as Victoria tucked Lily into bed, her daughter surprised her with an announcement. "Mommy, I want to go back to school in the fall." Victoria's heart fluttered with pride and nervousness. "Are you sure you're ready?" "I want to tell the other kids about the garden, and maybe some of them need to learn how to grow, too." As Victoria kissed her daughter good night, she marveled at the transformation that had occurred. Lily had remembered not just how to walk, but how to hope. But tomorrow would bring one final revelation that would complete their story. 6 months later, on a crisp October morning, Victoria stood in the same kitchen window where she had first watched Marcus unload his tools from his weathered pickup truck. But everything had changed. Lily was outside, running through the garden paths with 3 other children whose parents had heard about her miraculous recovery. The Whitmore estate had quietly become a sanctuary for families seeking hope beyond traditional medicine. "Mrs. Santos, watch this," Lily called to the mother of 8-year-old Diego, who had been paralyzed in a swimming accident. Lily demonstrated a perfect cartwheel on the grass, landing with a triumphant grin. "How long until Diego can do that?" Mrs. Santos asked Marcus, who was guiding her son through gentle walking exercises. "Diego will tell us when he's ready," Marcus replied. "Every child heals on their own timeline." Victoria smiled. remembering when she had asked similar desperate questions. Now she understood that healing couldn't be rushed or forced, only nurtured and believed in. Dr. Peterson arrived for his weekly visit, a routine that had evolved from medical necessity to genuine friendship. "How's our miracle girl today?" "Running circles around children who were never injured." Victoria laughed. "She wants to try out for soccer in the spring. And you're comfortable with that level of activity?" "I'm comfortable with Lily being Lily," finally. As they talked, Victoria noticed Marcus approaching the house with an expression she'd never seen before. Nervous, almost shy. "Victoria, could I speak with you privately?" They walked to the far corner of the garden, where the sunflower Lily had planted in her wheelchair now towered above their heads, its face turned toward the morning sun. "I have something to tell you," Marcus began, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Something I should have said months ago." Victoria felt her pulse quicken. "What is it?" "I didn't come to work for you by accident. The employment agency didn't just recommend me for this job." "I don't understand." Marcus took a deep breath. 3 years ago, after Tommy Chen died, I lost everything. My license, my practice, my purpose. I was working construction jobs, drinking too much, barely surviving. But Tommy's mother, Elena Chen, found me. Victoria's eyes widened. Dr. Chen's wife? Ex-wife by then. She told me something the medical board never knew. Tommy had a twin brother who had been born with the same arterial malformation but had survived because it was detected early. She said Tommy's death wasn't my fault, but she also said I couldn't help other children if I was drowning in guilt. So she helped you become a gardener. She helped me understand that healing has many forms. She's the one who heard about Lily's case and recommended me to the employment agency. Victoria absorbed this revelation, understanding dawning in her eyes. Elena Chen wanted you to have a second chance. She wanted me to remember why I became a therapist in the first place, to help children discover their strength. "Marcus, why are you telling me this now?" He was quiet for a moment, watching Lily demonstrate her walking technique to Diego with the patience of a natural teacher. "Because I need you to know that what happened here wasn't just about gardening or therapy techniques. It was about love, your love for Lily, her courage, and yes, my belief in what's possible when we refuse to accept limitation." Victoria stepped closer. And because I've fallen in love with both of you, with this life we've built together, with watching Lily grow stronger every day, with the family we've become." The words hung in the morning air like butterflies waiting to land. "Marcus Rivera," Victoria said softly, "are you asking me to marry you?" "I'm asking if you think a former therapist turned gardener who talks to plants and believes in impossible things might have a place in your future." Victoria looked across the garden at Lily, who was now helping Diego take his first unassisted steps, while Mrs. Santos wept with joy. She thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment, the desperation, the hope, the miraculous recovery that had defied every medical prediction. "I think," Victoria said, taking Marcus's dirt-stained hands in hers, "that you've already proven you belong here." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes to everything, to marriage, to family, to the incredible life we're building together." As they kissed in the shadow of Lily's towering sunflower, they heard a delighted shriek from across the garden. "Diego, you're walking. You're really walking." They turned to see Diego taking his first independent steps, while Lily danced around him, cheering as if she had discovered treasure. "Look, Marcus. Look, Mommy," Lily called. "The garden is working its magic again." But Victoria knew the real magic wasn't in the soil or the plants, or even in Marcus's gentle guidance. The magic was in believing that healing was possible, in refusing to accept limitations, and in the power of love to create miracles that medicine couldn't explain. That evening, as the other families headed home with new hope in their hearts, Victoria found Marcus and Lily planting bulbs for next spring's garden. "What are we planting?" Victoria asked, kneeling beside them. "Tulips," Lily announced. "Marcus says they have to sleep all winter in the cold, dark ground before they can become beautiful." Like people sometimes, Marcus added, meeting Victoria's eyes. Sometimes we have to go through darkness before we can bloom. But we always bloom eventually, right? Lily asked. Always, Victoria assured her. Sometimes it just takes the right gardener to help us remember how. As they worked together in the fading light, planting promises for spring, Victoria marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, she had been a desperate mother clinging to false hope and expensive treatments. Now she was part of a family that believed in the impossible and made it happen, one day at a time. The formal garden that had once symbolized beauty without purpose had become a living testament to the power of hope, love, and the human spirit's refusal to surrender. And in the morning, there would be new children to help, new families to encourage, and new miracles waiting to bloom in the soil of possibility. Lily Rose Whitmore had learned to walk again, but more than that, she had learned to help others remember how to hope. And in a garden where impossible things happened every day, that was the most beautiful miracle of all.